Hey, what's up guys, Mass Mechanics here and welcome back to the channel. This is where I left you guys off in the last video. We ended up blowing our transmission out in the truck. So now we have to figure out what we're going to do with our Project S10 here to get this thing back up and running. So let's get this old junk out and then we can figure out where we go from here. Stay tuned. Well, now that we know our transmission is totally broken, I've got to rip it out. I started taking the front drive shaft off. This is actually the factory S10 front drive shaft. It's got about that much left inside of the slip yoke, so there's quite a bit still, which is good. It doesn't have any play. So that's good for height-wise, so we're good with that. But our clearance up here is a little tight, and when you hit a bump, it does touch once in a while. So I got to take a carbide burr and just clean this edge a little bit. Give myself a little more clearance. But yeah, I got one bolt out of it already. This is our new cross member that I picked up and painted and put on, and I'm not going to take off again. We're going to reuse this. I'd like to get it done before it gets so cold I can't even work, because it's pretty cold out right now. So underneath here, this is what we're working with. Here's our transfer case that worked fine, and then we have our tranny mount, which is broken, and then yeah, we got to get this transmission out and throw it away. I believe the speedometer gear piece or whatever we're going to take out and swap that over. We'll address that, and I'll video it when I get to that point. But for now, I'm going to just start taking out bolts. We got to unbolt the cross member here. Got to unbolt it here, obviously here. We got to undo the bell housing bolts up there, the flywheel bolts or flex plate bolts right there on the converter, and drive shafts. Got to get these out. Drive shaft there, one here. So we'll get all that done, and then we can start pulling it out. I got to take this side of the exhaust off too. So as you can see, I moved the clamp. I got to loosen up those, and I might just pivot it out of the way if there's enough room. We'll see. But either way, just got to keep wrenching away. So I'll get to it, and I'll catch up with you guys when I get farther along. Alright, we got our front drive shaft out, as you can see, right here. It goes there. There's our Corvette that we're going to be going on pretty soon. We got our crossmember bolts out right here. So now we got to take the ones out on the sides, like I said before. And right now we're trying to get this rear drive shaft out. So to do that, you got the center bearing here. And then down here, we got to take this shaft off way down here. And then to unbolt on these rusty bolts here to get the center bearing out. Then slide the whole shaft out with the center bearing all together. And then we're going to have to cut this cross member out, because as you can see, there's pieces of it missing. So rotten. And then weld in a new cross member right here. Grind these rivets off, get this thing out, and then weld in a new cross member. Make the bolt holes, and then it'll stiffen this up big time. And then we can cut this cross member out and probably leave it out, honestly, because it gets in the way of the exhaust. It's just aggravation. These are frozen in there, but they do this. So when you're driving, you hear that. That gets old. So we'll just cut this rusty piece of junk out. And it's full of leaves, too. I can't get a hold of one yet, but there's a bunch of leaves inside of here. I don't even know how they got in. It must be from the top. But yeah, so we'll get rid of this torsion bar cross member because we don't need it. Stiffen up and put a new cross member in here, which will be stronger to replace having this rotted one and this rotted one. And then it'll free up some room under here, easier to work on it. We already got this nice tubular cross member here, and we'll get our new transmission going. So got to take the linkage off. We got to get everything undone on the transfer case, shifter wise too. Drive shaft out, torque converter bolts, bell housing bolts, and a few other bolts, and we'll keep wrenching. I'll bring you back when we get a little farther. Well, as you can see, the drive shaft is out. The center bearing bolts came out, which was a miracle. Got that out. Got the whole drive shaft right out of the truck. And got this big cross member piece out. That was for the torsion bars, because obviously there's no torsion bars, so that's kind of useless. and now it won't rattle. Cut it in half because it didn't want to slide out easy, so got that out of the way. This piece is riveted to the frame. This is part of the torsion bar cross member also. I wanted to cut all this out and replace this, but I'm thinking I might just kind of leave it alone to get through the winter, because I would like to have everything painted nice so it doesn't get all rusted over the winter. So I'll just leave this garbage in here, and then come springtime when it warms up, I can get rid of these rivets right here, take this piece out, put the new one in, because we know all the bolts come apart now, and then make the new cross member, get it all painted nice, and that way we don't have to worry about that again. And then once that's all welded in solid, then I'll cut the rest of this junk out of here. But it's not any different cutting it out now than when I cut it out with everything in it, you know, so it's not like I get a benefit to having the tranny out. So we'll just leave it for now and keep wrenching away. We're going to drain the fluid in the pan, and we're going to start on the bell housing bolts and the flywheel bolts, or flex plate bolts. Get that out, and then it'll be almost time to drop it on the ground. Stay tuned. Well, guys, we jumped ahead a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. As you can see, here's our transmission. That is our transmission adapter plate that goes on to the transfer case. Transfer case, there it is. Here we are, back of the engine. That's our shifter for the transfer case. Then we got our shifter here. Where is it? Down here somewhere. There's our shifter for our transmission itself, right there. All the old linkage style stuff on these old trucks. Kind of cool. Is it a 70s? Is it a 90s? Who knows? They're about the same. So that's pretty cool. Easy stuff to deal with. As you guys saw in the previous, that this was our cross member that was left after we ripped the old one out. So that was good. Everything came apart pretty good. No real problems. Now to support the engine while the transmission is out, we used our cherry picker here. Well, not really. We used part of it. And then ratchet strapped it around the header, and that holds the back of the engine from tipping back. So then we can adjust it and fiddle around with it later instead of using a jack underneath the oil pan, because it looks like there might be a little bit of a leak either on our new rear main seal or new oil pan gasket, or maybe the pan's messed up even though it's brand new. Something appears to be leaking a little bit. So we're going to address that while the transmission is out. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of effort and aggravation and work, but it's all out, and we are ready for our brand new transmission. So next video, I'm going to cover our new transmission. And no, this is not it. It is a nice one. You guys will be happy I did it. I know I certainly will be. So please like, subscribe. If you like what you see, you're going to see a pretty nice piece going in this thing, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it once it's done, because it's going to be pretty good. For this setup, it's going to be bulletproof. So that'll be great. We can really romp on it and not worry about breaking anything. Well, maybe an axle or two, but we'll figure that out as we go. So again, like, subscribe, guys. Check it out. We're going to keep making content and hoping you guys keep liking it. So we're the Mass Mechanics. You can check us on Instagram too if you want to get a head start on where we're at with these projects.